Hi guys. So we're back with video number 2 of the 5 Lightroom tools that you'll wish you'd known about sooner.
Yeah, and these tools are kind of a step up from the last one. They're a little bit more advanced, but we're really excited to show them to you.
Yeah, we're not going to waste any time chatting away. We're just going to jump right in. So let me share my screen here and switch over to Lightroom. Okay, so the very first tool that we're going to share with you today is called Smart Previews. And Smart Previews are basically a condensed version of a larger file. So when you import images from a camera, especially like a bigger camera, the files are huge and they can slow down your computer. So a way to speed up your editing process is for your computer not to be lagging and trying to load those larger images. So we're going to show you how when you import the images, you can build Smart Previews within Lightroom. So I have a card loaded, and I'm going to go into File, Import, Photos, and Video. And it's going to read, it sees my SD card already right here as EOS. And I don't want to import all of these for this video, so I'm going to uncheck them and just select a few images to import. And then you'll see right over here, Build Smart Previews. So definitely want that checked. You can build them on import, which is what we do, or you can also build them later, which I'll show you. And then we'll add to this collection. Collections are something that we'll probably talk to you guys about in another video, but just for the sake of shortness here. And then you choose where you want the raw files to go. So we're going to put those into this folder here. And then we just click import, and you'll see it kind of starts to ingest these photos. And we have 2 operations. One of them is importing the raws, and the second one is creating the smart previews.
And the smart previews are saved in the same folder as the catalog, so we'll show you that too.
Perfect. So that was pretty quick because it was just 3 files. And then, so you see here now when we select an image, it says original plus smart preview. And also, actually, you can kind of see in the small gray right here, it says this photo can continue to be edited even if it goes offline. So say I had those images on my external hard drive, which is what we encourage everyone to do, is like save all your raw files off of your computer so it doesn't slow down. You could still edit and like work on your computer, which is what we're about to show you, like to separate the smart preview from the original file. And you don't need all those raw files with you. So it's a really handy tool. It seems kind of weird in the beginning. I remember when we first learned about smart previews, we were both kind of like, huh? But you'll hopefully grasp it as we continue to talk about it. So right now it's still reading the original in the smart preview. We don't want the Lightroom to see the original file because then it'll work off of that original file and you won't get the speed that we're trying to get. So I'm gonna minimize my Lightroom. And I'm just going to go into the sample 2 folder that I just created and see how we have our raw files in here, the 3 raw files. I'm going to move this folder into my hard drive. So let's say I had just imported my images and now I'm transferring them over to the hard drive. So I'm moving it, not copying it. So I took it off of my desktop and put it onto my hard drive. I did that outside of Lightroom, so Lightroom is not going to know where those files went. We actually want that to happen in this instance because we want to be able to work just from the Smart Preview. So now you'll see that when I select these images, it only says Smart Preview. It doesn't say Original plus Smart Preview anymore. And that allows me to do my edits quickly without having the image, doesn't have like the little loading circle. And I can go ahead and make all of the edits. It sometimes will show you the image a slightly less like quality, like if you zoomed in really far, it might not be as sharp. But later on, when you go back and you connect the original file to the Smart Preview, you'll have your full image quality and it works great. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you that too, because I know obviously you're gonna need to reconnect them afterwards. So
we can't export just from the smart preview.
Yeah, you can't, and you don't want to do that. I mean, unless you for some reason didn't have your original files, but it will let you go up here and click export. So you don't want to forget that you need to reconnect them back to the original file, because you'll lose quality if you're just exporting it from a Smart Preview. But the reason you know that you have these little boxes up here, and when you click them, it says it can be edited using the Smart Preview, but the original file cannot be found. And that's because I moved them outside of Lightroom. So then you just click locate. And this is just good to know too, because sometimes this happens in Lightroom. You move file folders, and then it'll tell you can't find your images, and that causes like a little panic attack. But it's not a big deal. You just go locate those original files. So I put it in my hard drive. Lots of pictures in here. Which one was it, Meg?
So I'll say it right at the bottom, 3250.
50.
So when you see that's actually took me a while to figure that out. When you have it selected and you're trying to find that file in the box, you can just look at the bottom of Lightroom.
So you can see now that I don't have those little squares. And sometimes over here it still says Smart Preview. It takes Lightroom a little bit of time to show you that it's the original in the Smart Preview. Or sometimes you might even need to X out of Lightroom and come back in to make sure that they are connected. But okay, so here you can see I changed images, and it's now saying original plus Smart Preview. So basically I just showed you how to disconnect the raw file from the Smart Preview so that you can work just on the Smart Previews, and then how to reconnect them later when you're ready to export after they're all edited, or for whatever purposes you need.
And this is just to really speed up your workflow, to make sure you're not lagging between edits. If you find that it's taking a while for the image to load, or it's just kind of pixelated, like this is a great simple solution to speed up everything that you're working on. And the other thing with these is this is what you're going to primarily use if you're working as a team, or you're importing and exporting for other team members the images. You can just send them a catalog with specifically Smart Preview so they can edit for you.
Right, so this is what I send to my editor, my photo editor. I create the Smart Previews, and then I export them as a catalog and just send her the Smart Previews so that she can work on them quickly, email them back to me quickly, and then I can pull it up and connect it back to those RAWs. So that way I'm not trying to transfer huge RAW files over, Google. So it's super helpful, regardless, even if you're just editing for yourself, just to speed up your computer. So yeah. So that is Smart Previews.
Okay, so for the second tool, we're going to talk about camera profiles. And for camera profiles, this is something that your images, they import with a basic profile that you can see over here. Sorry, there's a little bit of a lag over here. But you can create different profiles with your presets that will serve different purposes. And if you end up ever purchasing presets or anything like that, sometimes they'll come with a different profile, which just affects the colors of your photos a little bit. So my image here, the preset that I use uses camera neutral. But if I click on this, these are preloaded profiles that come automatically with Lightroom that you can see. So if I change it to Adobe Color, see how much it changes the look of the overall image. So if you know you're going to have a certain preset that you're creating just for landscapes, you may want to use Adobe Landscape because it's going to make your image more vivid. This doesn't necessarily look good for portraits because now she looks a little bit on the orange side. So this is an awesome tool to be able to customize your presets in a way that works with the environment that you're using. So if you know you are in a more dull environment, maybe it's kind of flat and overcast, you might want to use Adobe Vivid to bring back some of that color. And if you know you're in a really bright sunny environment, then maybe you'll use more of a neutral to kind of mellow it out a little bit. And
these can also be selected in camera. These are truly camera profiles. So if you're really getting advanced with it, you could shoot your images in Vivid and then they would import like that. But these are ways to change them afterwards.
Yeah, and so it doesn't actually change any of the settings in Lightroom that you're working with. It just strictly changes the profile. And so when you purchase presets and things, you'll notice that sometimes you'll get maybe like a Fujifilm profile or different things like that that they use to really customize the preset in a different ways than just the sliders. So yeah, check it out, play around with it, and let us know what you think. That is camera profiles.
Now we are going to talk to you guys about the tone curve. So you'll see over here in your panels, we have the tone curve. And it just kind of looks like this intimidating graph. I don't know about you guys, but I hated graphs in school. So when I look at that, I'm kind of like, so basically it gives you more control over your image for what you're doing up here. So like you can control your highlights. Actually, we're going to switch to a new image too. You can control your highlights, of course, and your shadows up here, but like for my certain style, I have my blacks all the way up already. And let's say I wanted to add a little more contrast. You could come down to your tone curve and do additional changes. So I'm going to switch it to, this is the basic way to look at it. You can click this here and see the highlights, darks, shadows, different sliders here. So let's say I wanted to bring my blacks in just a little bit more. You can see like that's just making additional changes. And it's changing as well this curve up here. So if I wanted to
actually drag in the curve itself, or you can use these sliders below the curve to do the adjustments, whatever.
I tend to actually use these sliders because I feel like I have more control, but you can definitely change it up here if you want as well. Especially if you're in this mode, you have to use the sliders here. And then we also wanted to show you the J tool. So if you click J as a shortcut in Lightroom, just click the J key. It turns on the highlight indicator. So let me go here. So if we are at 0 here, anywhere where there's sun, you know, it's super blown out. So the J shortcut shows you those areas where either your darks are super dark or your lights are super light and there's no detail in them. So you can turn that on and then come into the basic, not the one that shows you your sliders, but the basic tone curve, and grab at the very bottom corner, and you want to, it really matters which one you grab and where you slide it. So actually this will be in our darks here, but
yeah, you have to keep it against the bottom, but it'll basically like get you to that point of max contrast without going over it and losing all the detail.
You see the shadows are starting to turn blue up there over here in the grass. That is basically saying, like, I'm sliding, this image was already edited, so it's already to the point where I want it to be. So pretty immediately when I start sliding it, you can see that the black starts to turn blue because it's saying, oh, hold up, you're losing all your details and your shadows. So this is a good like guide for you to know like where you start to lose detail. So some people's style is to have super dark darks and super blown out highlights. Megan and I both kind of prefer a more realistic look, so we don't necessarily want to blow out our highlights or have our darks like lose detail. So that's why you can see I had my highlights already pulled all the way down here. Like when as I slowly start to pull them, you'll see the red start to go away because it's just darkening those highlights and giving back some detail in those areas. Okay, so that is the tone curve.
All right, so our next tool that we're gonna take a look at is masks and range masks. So in the last video, we did go over brushing and masks in general. And so if you missed that, make sure you check it out because it's the basic ways to use a brush tool. Instead of only using the actual brush, we're gonna show you how to apply those concepts with a gradient tool, which is this tool right here, or the radial tool. And so basically this is just covering more of a vast area than the brush itself. And this gives you a lot of flexibility to adjust horizon, like above horizon lines, below horizon lines, parts of the image, like maybe you're shooting in an alley and part of the image has a lot of sun coming in and part of it's dark. You can kind of even out and balance the photo with using these types of tools. But you still have the flexibility of the brush to where you can erase certain sections or adjust only certain sections. So, for example, I'm going to go ahead and just clear this off because there's kind of some adjustments in here already. So you guys can see what I'm doing. And the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to try to just soften up the bottom half of this image. So I purposely underexposed it so that I wouldn't lose the detail in the sky. But the couple's kind of dark and the trees are kind of losing detail. And so I really just want to drag this tool from the bottom, like so, kind of to where the top of those trees are. And if you hold shift down, like once you have it set, you hold shift down, you can drag how far you want it to phase out. Sometimes if I have a really strict horizon, I will not use that and I'll try to make it just a straight line. And if I have something that I do want to make it not such an obvious ending, I'll just hold that shift and widen it.
That's kind of like the bleed out, like the when you have a brush and the feathering basically is kind of what she's talking about there, like how much it feathers out your effect, whatever sliders you move.
Yeah, so if you see if I do something really dramatic like that, you can see how
it's doing it to that.
So we'll reset that. One good thing when that you're working with is to show this mask overlay. And so this will show you the area of the image that you're adjusting, and you can kind of see how it fades there too. But just for the purpose of making the adjustments, I'm going to actually turn that off. Okay, so I'm going to start making adjustments to just the bottom half of this image. So I'm going to add some shadows in to bring them back, and maybe for the sake of time, I might just add some warmth and pink. And if I was truly editing this, I'd probably take a little bit more time to figure out what I wanted to do to this bottom half of this image here. But something like that just kind of evens it out and brings it back a little bit. So you can see if I turn this off, how much dark it goes, but when you look at it, the sky stays the same as it was.
Right, so like if she was up in the top basic slider, just bringing in shadows, it would have gotten rid of the cool mountain back there. It would have made the sky less blue. So this is like really concentrating just on that bottom half.
Yeah, and like let's say, okay, so for this bottom half where the sky is reflecting in the water, let's say for some reason I just really don't want that part to be affected. What I can do is I can go into the brush, turn on what I'm editing here, and I can actually erase certain sections. So instead of having to brush most of that with just a single brush, I can just erase the little portions that I don't want to be adjusted. And so you can see as I'm doing that, this is the area that's being removed from the edit. And so it's a nice little way to speed up if you are doing more intensive individual editing of parts of the image, I guess. Yeah, so that's how that works. And then one other feature that I really, really love with this gradient tool is the ability to adjust just bright or just dark portions of an image. So I'm going to do a new gradient. I'm going to drag it from the top this time, and I'm going to just adjust the sky. So I'm going to try to adjust the sky without adjusting, the dark parts of the mountain or the tree. And so I dragged my filter there. I'm going to turn on my mask here so you can see. So this is where the range mask comes in. It's kind of the fancy tool. If you click on that, it's going to give you two options, so color or luminance. So luminance is going to be the brightness or darkness areas of the image, and color is going to be a specific color. So for this, I'm going to just try to adjust specifically the lighter portions of the sky. So I'm going to select luminance. And because you can see which area of the image I'm adjusting, if you drag this range, it will start to show you what it's going to adjust. So if I drag it all the way to the left, it's going to only adjust the dark areas of the image. If I drag it all the way to the right, give it a second here to catch up with me. There we go. it's gonna deselect those darker shadow areas and only keep the brighter areas. So I'm gonna literally drag it about as far as it'll let me. And you can see it's just kind of picking up the clouds in the sky.
It's a really faint red now, so it's kind of hard to see, but it's a lot quicker than brushing and erasing and all the bright parts of the image.
So let me show you so you can actually see. So if I deselect the mask, and let's do something super dramatic, like taking the exposure all the way down.
There is a little bit of a delay now, I can see.
Yeah, so you can see where it's adjusting. For this, I kind of just want to make the sky a little bit more colorful, let's say. So I can just drag the blues down, give it a little extra pop. Maybe I want to make it more of a purple. Add some pink in. You really can just adjust different areas exactly how you'd like to. With the color version of the range mask, you can select a specific color in the image to just adjust. So let's say I want to adjust the greens. So if I click those greens, it's only going to keep that to adjust. And let's say just something I would realistically do, but just for the purpose of showing you, let's say I want to make that top of those trees really yellow.
They are a little bit cooler, so maybe you were trying to like even it out with the bottom half of the trees or something.
Yeah. So you can just really isolate in certain things of an image.
I like them like that because I'm from Florida. Well, you're from Florida, but I'm like, oh yeah, warmer. Like everything that I get to take pictures of is like lime green, and everything Megan takes pictures of is like a blue green, like deep in what is it, like Everest or
deep evergreens.
Evergreen, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's all kinds of funky things that you can do with this tool, but it's really nice if you're shooting in like a really bright background and your subject's faces are darker and you want to try to bring back some of that detail more. You can just select their faces or just the background and you can adjust things from there. So yeah, that is how you use mask and range masks.
So the final tool that we are going to talk to you guys about is in the transform panel. So this tool here, it's called the guided upright tool. And whenever you have a lot of lines in your image, horizontal and vertical, you'll notice that sometimes because lenses are spherical, they kind of distort those lines. Or if you were angled, like if you didn't shoot from directly onto them, the lines will be kind of angled and you just, no amount of cropping will ever make it look right. Like you can tell something's off, but you're like, gosh, I can't get it right. When I crop this one, this line looks crooked. So this is kind of a life changer whenever you are anal like us and you want all your lines to be straight, because it really does make a big difference over like how your eye views the image and like how professional it looks.
Especially if you live in an urban environment or you're constantly shooting with like a downtown area. It just helps you a lot.
You notice it way more in urban environments because you have straight lines. Obviously not many straight lines in nature, but horizontal, like horizon lines and sometimes things like that you can fix, but this is definitely more so something you notice you have to use for your city photos. So you go ahead and grab the tool, click it here, and then you look for your very like definite lines that need to be straightened out. So a definite one that I see are these pillars. So we'll go ahead and pull a line. So you like drag it, like hold down the click, like hold down the mouse clicker and get it just right to where it looks like it's perfectly straight. It has to be kind of exact. So I'm gonna get all up in the business here and get it straight. And then we'll look for a horizontal line. I would say like this is obviously one that definitely needs to be straight. We'll do this, and it kind of gives it like the ability to go perpendicular up here. And you'll see that's obviously not what we're still looking a little crooked here. So we're gonna pull one more over here. And that should really straighten it out. So you'll see that it had to slice the sides here in order to really straighten out those lines. So we lost some of the images here, but you can crop that. So we go to our crop tool here, bring it up to the farthest point possible for this image. Move us out of the way and crop it on this side. Let's say that right about there. I try to keep as much as I possibly can down here. Okay, and obviously this is not possibly exactly where I would crop it, but just for the sake of being brief here, we now have straight lines, and you can kind of come back over here and see the difference. If we turn on and off the transform panel, it's going to be pretty drastic because of the crop, but you see those lines were so much more crooked, and now we really straighten these pillars out. And again, like where you place those lines and on the horizontal axis as well as the y-axis, it's going to make a difference. So you can be a lot more precise with it whenever you're trying to get an image just right. But just to show you how it works, and it's truly amazing. Like you can really fix some images that seem unfixable when you're trying to crop them. So.
Yeah, and so a good tip would just be to shoot a little bit wider than maybe you'd really want for the background if you're in one of those environments, so that you'll know you'll have room to adjust afterwards.
Right, and that's the transform tool.